Hi, greetings. It's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and this is just a quick video to help you be able to write a review of literature. So please take these tips on APA writing with a grain of salt. I want everybody who takes a class from us to be able to effectively know how to write a paper and make sure that it flows well. And so hopefully you might even use a print screen of this page to help you remember that what you're doing. So tip number 1, find a topic that you're interested in. So this really should motivate you. When you have a topic that is interesting to you, that you want to learn more about, you're probably going to want to dig a little bit deeper. As you're going through your educational program, think about topics that you could use to help grow your career. What ideas do you want to learn more about that would be ideal in your current organization or in your ideal future organization? And then dig deep into the topic as it relates to whatever the scope of your project is according to the class that you're taking. Number 2, spend time each day using key terms related to your topic to search the peer-reviewed scholarly databases. So if you search my list of APA writing videos, you'll notice that I also have a video in there on peer-reviewed scholarly sources. When you're writing a scholarly paper, it's important to make sure that you're supporting your paper properly. One of the subtle things that I talk about is Harvard Business Review is not a peer-reviewed scholarly source. So it is a great source written by very smart people who have been published and constantly quoted. But if you really are writing a scholarly paper, you do need to make sure that you are using peer-reviewed scholarly sources. And according to whatever your professor's expectations are, or the expectations in your syllabi, make sure that you have enough of them to support your ideas. So you use the scholarly peer-reviewed button checked in the database and continue using Boolean terms, and combining ideas to see what appears in there, and then take a look at the abstracts for each of those as you go through and decide whether or not that is an article that you want to spend your time reading and then using to support your paper. Number 3, read the articles and use note cards to summarize the ideas of each article on one side of the card, then use the other side of the card to do your APA reference. So I can remember going through and having stacks and stacks of papers that I had printed out when I was doing my dissertation. And it's a good idea these days to save the articles on your hard drive and use a reference later, but it really helps you stay organized when you can just kind of say, hey, this article on this and this talked about this on one side of a note card, and then on the other side you can use an APA reference. Of course, whatever process works best for you, but organizing note cards helps you organize your paper as you get into it. Number 4, allow the literature to guide you. Ideas from your article you read can lead you to other ideas that help your answer your research questions and help readers understand your topic better. So as you go along, you may find that more and more ideas related to your topic are popping up. That gives you an indicator that these are other search terms that you can use in the scholarly databases to help really paint a good picture about the phenomena or concepts related to your research. Number 5, make sure every paragraph is supported by at least one scholarly reference. The purpose of a literature review really is to say, hey, this is what the literature is saying. And so I would make sure that in every paragraph that you write, these aren't just ideas that you're saying, which is important, but they're also ideas that are supported by other smart people. And so I believe that the more citations that you have in a paragraph helps really illuminate the validity of what you're saying. So do really make sure that you're supporting your ideas in a scholarly way. Number 6, paraphrase only, capital O-N-L-Y. Sometimes as an undergraduate, we get into the habit of saying, hey, here's a direct quote by so-and-so. Here's another direct quote by so-and-so. And here's another direct quote by so-and-so. And that's a very undergrad thing to do, but it is not a scholarly thing to do. You need to be the author of your paper. So you're the one writing the paper. Write down the ideas in a way that flows, compares and contrasts, and supports your thesis statement and hypothesis. So when you're doing that, you're showing that these are ideas that are supported by other smart people. But the only time to use a direct quote is when someone notable has said it. So if you could say something like, Martin Luther King Jr. Suggested this thing, and it's an amazing quote that kind of illuminates the importance of it. The other time you would use a direct quote is when you cannot possibly say it in your own words any other way, and that if you did change the wording, it would change the meaning or feeling of it. So that doesn't happen very often. You need to be the author of your paper, so paraphrase it. Read the article in your own words, put the article aside and say, what was this article about? And then cite it properly. Don't use direct quotes. Again, related to that, number 7, use direct quotes sparingly when you use direct quotes. So I just told you, you really should not be using direct quotes in most research papers. You really should be just paraphrasing the concepts and ideas of what you're finding in the literature to support the paragraph. So paraphrase in your own words and cite properly. Number 8, use headings and subheadings to organize your paper. Develop and expound on each subheading thoughtfully. Make sure your headings are properly formatted. Well, I have a whole video on my YouTube page that talks about using headings and subheadings. Essentially, you need a level 1 heading in order to have a level 2 heading, and a level 2 heading is followed by a level 3 heading. You would never have a level 3 heading without having a level 2 heading above it, unless it was another level 2 heading above it that had a level 1 heading above it. So really make sure that you are using headings properly to support the ideas. It helps create organization and good flow. It just makes good sense to use headings properly in your paper. So watch that video on APA headings and subheadings. Number 9, good paragraph structure. Always more than one sentence. So the first sentence should introduce the idea. Then the second sentence and third sentences should expound on the idea with examples. Compare and contrast. Sum things up in the last sentence, then tie it into your next paragraph. I like to use the analogy of a sandwich. Top piece of bread is your introduction in your paragraph. The meat and tomatoes and vegetables that are in your sandwich, maybe cheese, with all that good stuff, those are the examples and citations that you're using, comparing and contrasting in the middle of your paragraph. And then the final sentence of your paragraph sums things up, bottom piece of bread. So think of each paragraph as a beautiful, delicious sandwich that makes you want another sandwich. So it kind of ties into the next paragraph. So good paragraph structure is always more than one sentence. Number 10, always read your paper out loud with fresh eyes to make sure that your sentences are free of grammar and spelling errors. And notice there's an intentional error in the word errors. So they're easy. It's really easy to just throw down a bunch of sentences and feel good about it. I think about emails that I send off to my boss. I got a good idea in my mind, type it all up, I think it's brilliant, and then I hit send. And then my boss replies back to me, and I'm like, wow, that seems a little harsh. And so I'll read what I wrote, and I'm like, oh, of course, my boss thinks I'm an idiot because I did not read my sentences out loud and my paragraphs out loud or my paper out loud. So in this case, if you're going to submit anything for a grade, it really does make good sense to come back with a fresh set of eyes and really read it out loud. Listen to the grammar, look at the spelling, and make sure that it flows nicely. Does this make sense in context? So a good scholarly paper has a bunch of paragraphs that flow nicely. They're not run-on paragraphs for the sake of writing. They are succinct and show that other scholarly people believe the same way as you and illuminate key ideas that compares and contrasts ideas that paint a bigger picture and ultimately answers the questions of your research that you have outlined properly, and sums things up nicely at the end, and of course introduces things nicely at the start. So do take a look at the video on APA introductions to start things on a positive note, and know that your abstract should be written last. And I have a video on APA abstracts too on my YouTube site. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your valuable time. I hope you have found this video helpful on literature review writing tips, and of course these are good tips for any type of research paper. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. I'm Dr. Paul Gerhardt.